At just 29, Ben Renick had turned a childhood fascination into a blooming business built on rare snakes worth more than luxury cars. Inside a massive barn on his Missouri farm, thousands of exotic reptiles represented patience, strategy, and serious money. He was respected, ambitious, and rising fast. Then one day, inside that very building, Ben was found dead, and everyone first blamed the snakes. Before we even get to the murder, you need to understand Lindley. She did not come into Ben's life as a blank slate. In her late teens, she had a baby with one boyfriend. That relationship ended badly. Another relationship followed. This one tied to drugs and prescription painkillers. She later admitted she became addicted. One of those former boyfriends was Michael Humphrey, a man with his own criminal past. Years later, his name would come back in a way no one expected. Then there was Ben Renick. Ben was born in 1987 and grew up on a farm in New Florence, Missouri. While most kids collected baseball cards, Ben collected snakes. His first pet was a yellow rat snake. By his 20s, he was breeding rare ball pythons worth thousands of dollars each. By 30, he was known as a rock star in the reptile world. At one point, he had more than 3,000 snakes on the property. Some people invest in stocks. Ben invested in scales.
We don't, have massive amount of employees or anything like that. Like my wife and I mainly run this company. We thoroughly just enjoy snakes.
Ben and Lindley reconnected through social media. Things moved fast. She and her son moved onto the farm. They later had a daughter together and married in 2014. Ben supported her dream of opening a spa in Colombia called Essencia. To outsiders, they looked successful and stable. Big farm, growing business, cute family photos. Behind the scenes, money was tight. The spa was struggling. Messages later showed it was close to $200,000 in debt. Ben was covering bills. On the day he died, he sent Lindley a message that read, "No more lying. No more keeping things from me. No more not paying people and thinking it's okay to pay later." That message would later sound less like frustration and more like a warning. June 8th, 2017. Lindley called 911 and said she found her husband face down in his snake facility. She said he was in a pool of blood. The building held more than 3,000 exotic reptiles. Deputies arrived and stepped into what looked like a reptile warehouse. Bodycam footage shows officers walking carefully between racks of snakes. One officer joked that if any snake tried to bite him, he would light it up. Dark humor is common in tense scenes.
Harley, you see a snake come on here? You better shoot that from. I got him. Fellas, something got him. Paramedics said there's a bite mark on him, so if there's a snake loose in here.
Especially when surrounded by thousands of possible suspects with fangs. At first, responders wondered if a snake had attacked Ben. It sounded possible. He worked with powerful constrictors and rare species every day, but that theory fell apart quickly. Under Ben's body were shell casings. He had been shot multiple times from behind. The coroner later confirmed he was shot 6 times. Most wounds were in his back. One was to the back of his head. There were no defensive wounds, no signs of a struggle. Whoever did this came up from behind him. Ben likely died within 2 hours of the 911 call. That time window would matter later. Investigators spoke to Lindley that same day.
Did you think the same way? Yeah.
She appeared cooperative. She immediately pointed at Ben's brother, Sam. According to her, Sam had been upset about the family farm. Years earlier,
lived in a trailer there on the property while it took us 10 years to rebuild the house.
After their father died by suicide following a financial scandal, the farm was left to Ben, not Sam. Property disputes can turn ugly. That is what she suggested. Police interviewed Sam. He admitted the inheritance was not equal. He also said life is not fair and he could not afford the farm anyway. His alibi checked out. He passed a gunshot residue test. He passed a polygraph. He was ruled out. The Renick farm had been in the family for about 40 years. Losing it would later become another layer of tragedy. With Sam eliminated, detectives started looking closer at Ben and Lindley's marriage. Social media messages told a different story than the happy photos online. Ben had written to friends that he had suspected Lindley was cheating. When confronted, she admitted she was seeing someone else. The man had a confirmed alibi at the time of the murder, but the existence of an affair changed the tone of the investigation. The investigators found more names. Michael Humphrey, her former boyfriend. They had been in frequent contact leading up to June 8th. On the day of the murder, they exchanged multiple calls and texts. After that day, communication nearly stopped. To detectives, that silence screamed louder than any argument. Phone records showed intense contact between Lindley and Michael right up until the murder. Then almost nothing afterward. That kind of drop is rare in normal relationships. Meanwhile, financial pressure kept surfacing. Lindley had significant business loans. The spa was not thriving. Ben was covering gaps. There was also a $1 million life insurance policy on Ben. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Within hours of Ben's death, Lindley contacted the insurance agent about the policy. The company paused payment after learning she was under investigation. She also began trying to sell the farm and Ben's reptile business soon after. Sam went to court to try to stop the sale. To the reptile community, this felt wrong. They had raised over $40,000 through an online snake auction to help support Lindley and the kids. At the same time, investigators were quietly building a different picture. Detectives brought Lindley in for a polygraph exam. The goal was simple: clear her or confirm their suspicion. When the test ended, the examiner told her she had failed. On every relevant question about whether she shot Ben or planted his death, her answers showed deception. He told her Sam had been ruled out. He told her the investigation had narrowed. He pressed her, suggesting maybe things got out of hand. She did not confess. She admitted to affairs. She admitted to lying about parts of her marriage. She denied planning or committing murder. There was still no direct physical evidence tying her to the shooting. Her gunshot residue test was negative. Without more, she walked out. However, gunshot residue can be washed off, and washing is easier than most people think. Investigators kept that possibility in mind. Months turned into years. The case did not close, but it slowed. During that time, the farm sold for over $700,000. The reptile operation shut down. Lindley moved to Colombia with Brandon Blackwell. She became pregnant. From the outside, it looked like she was starting over. Behind the scenes, detectives kept reviewing phone calls, financial documents, and statements. They looked again at the timeline. 1:39 a.m. was not part of this case. There was no hospital hallway. There was a farm and a reptile building. The key window was between when Ben was last known alive and when Lindley made that 911 call. That window was tight. They also revisited the text Ben sent the day he died. No more lying. It read like a husband drawing a line. Investigators wondered if that line triggered something bigger. Not only this, around the time of the murder, there was Brandon Blackwell, a married man with 2 kids. After Ben died, Lindley went public with Brandon almost immediately. Social media showed smiling photos. Then came a pregnancy announcement. Timing matters in murder cases, and this timing raised eyebrows. Brandon left his wife. Lindley won her court fight to sell the farm for $740,000. Sam lost the property his family had held for 4 decades. The reptile racks were cleared out. The snakes were gone. The money moved. Life insurance was still in play. Then the relationship with Brandon collapsed. Restraining orders followed. In January 2020, Brandon landed in jail for violating one. From behind bars, he asked to talk to police. That is usually not good news for someone. Investigators listened carefully. Brandon said the murder was planned. He said Lindley first tried to poison Ben using crushed Percocet in a protein shake. Ben got sick, but did not die. According to Brandon, she then called Michael Humphrey for help. Phone records already showed heavy contact between them before the murder and almost none after. That silence now looked intentional. Brandon named 2 people, Michael Humphrey and Ashley Shaw, Lindley's co-worker at the spa. Detectives already knew Ashley had helped send texts from Lindley's phone to create an alibi on the day of the murder. Now they had a reason why. Police arrested Michael. He admitted driving Lindley to the farm that day. He said he believed they were going to talk about divorce. He admitted bringing a gun to her spa earlier because she claimed Ben was abusive. He said when Ben opened the door to the snake facility, Lindley fired the shots. He said he ran to the car when he heard the first one. He later led police to the murder weapon hidden in an attic. But that's not all. Investigators recovered the gun years later based on directions from a cooperating witness, which rarely happens unless someone is trying to save themselves. Ashley faced a choice: stand beside Lindley and risk first-degree murder charges or cooperate. She cooperated. She admitted helping obtain the Percocet used in the failed poisoning attempt. She admitted helping stage the alibi. She said Lindley told her Ben was abusive and that she feared losing her children in a divorce. Prosecutors saw something else: planning tied to money. With statements from Brandon, Michael, and Ashley, detectives finally had what they lacked before: a connected story with witnesses. Lindley was charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. Michael was charged as well. Prosecutors said the motive was financial pressure, a $1 million life insurance policy, a spa drowning in debt, a farm worth hundreds of thousands. They painted a picture of calculation. Michael went to trial first and was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. After agreeing to testify against Lindley and helping recover the weapon, his conviction was reduced to second degree with parole eligibility. Then came Lindley's trial. Prosecutors laid out the timeline step by step: the failed poisoning.
You told Sam Renick.
Yes.
You threw the scent off of Michael Humphrey, correct?
Yes.
And now, those men sitting in the back that were seeking justice, who you lied to about the true killer, you now want these 12 people to believe you, correct?
Yes.
I bet you.
They argued she was the mastermind and the shooter. Lindley testified in her own defense. She admitted to affairs and lies. She admitted being present. She claimed Michael pulled the trigger. She said she was in shock. The jury had to decide who was more believable: the ex-boyfriend facing prison or the wife facing it too. After hours of deliberation, the jury found her guilty of second-degree murder and armed criminal action. They did not convict on first degree, meaning they were not fully convinced about premeditation beyond doubt. For second-degree murder, they could have recommended life for up to 30 years. They chose 13 years for murder and 3 years for the weapon charge. 16 years total. Even in Missouri, a judge cannot exceed the jury's recommendation in this type of sentencing. Some family members asked for mercy for the children. Prosecutors argued the children were already victims of her actions. The judge read the sentence after correcting a clerical mistake on the verdict form. Ben's brother said his life was worth more than 16 years. Bobbitt Tucker, a family friend, said it felt like taking a life was worth 13 years in Missouri. Lindley is scheduled for release in 2038. Ben's children lost their father in a snake building filled with animals he loved. They also lost their mother to prison. The snakes were never the real danger in that building. What do you think was the biggest turning point in this story? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more real crime stories told straight and simple, make sure you subscribe.